Hi, it's Artie from Bremper Herbs. Today I wanted to talk to you about some simple home remedies you can do for more mild cases of COVID that don't require you to go to the doctor, or maybe they're late symptoms. And also for kids too, since some kids are not vaccinated, and when they're getting COVID, it's maybe the symptoms are less. Hopefully, obviously, if you need to go to the doctor, you need to go to the doctor. But if they're milder, if it's a milder situation, here are some suggestions to make the experience easier. So I wanted to start out with Sweet Dreams tea. This is definitely one of my dream teas, but I actually formulated when my child was very little, and it is kind of an all-purpose children's wellness tea, and it works. In this case, the active ingredient is thyme, and thyme is going to be helpful for adults and kids. So however, with kids, this could be especially helpful for mild cases of COVID because children tend to get stomach issues as well. And this has thyme in it, which is good for lung issues, including it's been historically used for whooping cough. I used it for swine flu one year. I've definitely used it during the pandemic as like a preventative. It's used for a lot of serious lung issues. Historically, it has been. It also has, this blend, Sweet Dreams tea, also has chamomile and catnip in it, which are two gentle tummy remedies that could be helpful for more mild cases of COVID, especially with kids, because they often get the tummy side of things. And it is a dream tea because thyme is also excellent for nightmares. So it doesn't make the nightmares go away. It makes them something you can manage. And that is similar to how I feel like it works for these life or death illnesses that it can be useful for, like whooping cough and stuff. I feel like it kind of resets your body or your psyche, if you're dreaming, into the place where Cutie's feeling very demanding today, into a place where you're not just like scared, like shocked into stillness or unable to react because your body's in such a state of fright, or your mind is in such a state of fright. Instead, you are just able to be like, okay, this is a battle that I can fight. And actually, this is a good story for kids and imaginative grown-ups. Thyme was used historically before entering the battlefield. And I think it is one of my favorite herbs of all time. So that one's great. And then right now I'm just releasing a new product called a warming elixir, and it is a tincture, alcohol-based, made with local honey too. It's made with elderberry and orange peel, damiana, and the blackberry honey. So elderberry is a good immune booster, good for fighting off flus and not getting sick in the first place. And then orange peel is warming to the stomach. I used this when I felt like I was exposed to COVID, and I was, both me and another employee were having stomach issues for several weeks after that. And so I didn't really think that it was COVID until this had gone on, and I had already been vaccinated. I decided just to try treating it as if it were from COVID. So I used what I knew to be good warming herbs for the stomach, and in fact, it worked right away. So I think it's a helpful one for this. If you're having a stomach issue, most stomach flus, they go away after like a couple days. So if you're not traveling to some exotic country or something like that, and you're just here and you get a stomach bug that's lasting quite a while, you might try this elixir, and it tastes pretty yummy too. I put damiana in there because I had just gotten a fresh batch, and I had just also learned that like fresh from the field, like super, super fresh damiana. And then it does have, like, if you smoke it, it has different properties that are more adult, but it is historically been used as like a children's beverage flavor. It just has a nice flavor. And I would say as a beverage or something to eat, like in chocolate, it does not have the same like adult properties. It is just like more like grounding, and like you can feel playful, like in a non psychoactive herb kind of way. You just feeling like more light and happy. And it does have a really nice flavor. This is, however, an alcohol-based tincture, and it has honey in it that has not been cooked, so raw honey. So you wouldn't want to give it to little kids. And if you're ever wanting to use an alcohol-based product, tincture or something like that for a kid or somebody who is sober or something like that, then a simple process is to get some freshly boiled water and add some drops to that. Like for a kid, like say you have a 3-year-old who's got some tummy aches, and you might just use like 3 or 4 drops. And a bigger kid, you might use like 8 drops. But for an adult, you could take a teaspoon or 2. So when treating the little kids, or the sober people, you would put, like the 3 drops into like as much as they'll drink, like a half a cup of steaming hot water, just boiled, and then let it sit for a minute or until it's cool enough to drink, whichever is longer. And then that should let, in 3 or 4 drops of alcohol, even the strongest alcohol, you're not getting much alcohol. Like I work with flower essences, and they say that like in 5 drops of the flower essence, it's about as much alcohol as in a banana. So similar to this product, there's not a lot of alcohol, but it's a strong flavor for a kid, and you want to just like avoid the alcohol as much as possible. So just put it in steaming hot water if you don't want to have the alcohol as part of the remedy. And if you don't mind, then it tastes great. And then 2 tinctures I wanted to remind you of are Lomatium and Baikal Skullcap. They are both ones I've talked about previously. Lomatium I had a dream about in January of 2020 before I was aware of the pandemic, and was in the dream it was suggested to begin taking the Lomatium, and that it would have really helpful effects similar to another herb that I had taken before, and that herb was Grandelia, and I took that herb based on dream recommendation, and I had asthma before that and no longer have asthma. So that was I was like, okay, well that's a good dream recommendation to mention that other herb. And so I did that. And then when I became aware of the pandemic in March, I started researching the Lomatium, trying to understand better how it would be helpful. And it is an herb that is considered the strongest antiviral in the United States, or native to the United States. And it was used during the Spanish flu in certain areas, where it was growing. And in those areas, they had the illness for sure, but they didn't have the deaths. So that is a really nice one to have on hand, and to take you can take it in small doses preventatively, and then if you get the virus and you are having like stronger symptoms, but you're not needing to go to the hospital, because you don't want to you want to make sure you get proper medical care if you need it, when you need it. So if you're in that in-between place between comfort and needing to go to the hospital, you can try the Lomatium. And I found, like for myself, it was really helpful when I was having some respiratory issues, when I felt like I had been exposed to COVID. It was prior to the testing, so I wasn't sure if that's actually what happened, but I was having some significant chest issues, lung issues that weren't normal for me when I got sick. So that Lomatium has been great, and I love that herb now that I've gotten to know it better. And then Baikal Skullcap, not to be confused with our Western skullcap, is a traditional Chinese medicinal root that they were using in in China at the time that, for COVID, at the time that COVID was coming over here. So that's another one that you could try if you feel like more of a resonance with that, or you want to have a couple things on hand, because more people are getting the illness, but not quite, often not as severe if you're already vaccinated. But I've definitely known some people who've had some symptoms, and also had some heart palpitations at the time that I was having the stomach issues that seemed like a late symptom of COVID. I don't know if I mentioned that, but that happened more recently, and the heart palpitations were getting worse and worse. And I hadn't had because the symptoms came late. I felt that it was kind of too late to get tested for COVID. So I also treated that with the warming elixir, and the palpitations went away right away. Now, they weren't so severe that I needed to go to the hospital, so don't substitute it for that. But there's something about COVID that those warming herbs really help. And Lomatium is very warming and spicy as well. So this all go good together. Anyway, with the Lomatium as a tincture, you could give that to children too in much smaller doses, 4 or 5 drops for a 10-year-old. I would just do the same thing where you put it into just basically you're making a tea out of the tincture. You're making a small amount of liquid water, like a half a cup that's boiling, and then you're putting the drops on top of it, and then have your child drink that. Yeah, that's helpful too. That's a nice either preventative or really, really strong immune stimulation. Yep. So those are some ideas for the COVID where it is right now. And please let me know your experiences, and make sure you get medical care if you need it. If you like this video, please like and subscribe and hit the bell for notifications.